Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com and grab some CPE while you're there.
All right, welcome friends and family to another episode of the Friday Fraudster. This is episode number 119, and we titled this one, Don't Be a Square. You have to account for your money. Now, all of that will become clear in just a few moments. But before we get into today's program, I want to personally invite you to listen to my other podcast, Audit Bites. You've got to check out episode 46 from October the 10th, Stop Auditing After the Fact. But coming up on October the 24th is one of my favorite episodes, Board Governance Gone Wrong. And on November the 7th, Why Communication Skills Are So Important for Internal Auditors. Now, the question that I have for you guys today is, who's going to be our next special guest? You see, we've announced recently that special guest co-host on the Friday Fraudster will get CPE credit. I think it's a good opportunity for you and us to collaborate with one another to increase our communication skills and to collaborate and coordinate with fellow internal auditing professionals. And with that said, let's introduce this week's special guest co-host. And you guys have seen him before. Thomas.
Hello, everybody.
What's going on, man?
Happy to be here. Yeah, we need people to volunteer so you stop seeing me on the screen week after week. All right. There's some better looking people out there, much more knowledgeable people out there. So contact Rob and show up.
Well, you know, I always say that I have a face for radio, but I guess I also have a voice for print too. So there you go. And there she is.
Now we've got a better show. Now we're good.
Oh, well, thank you. See, I do have to work sometimes.
Now, for you guys who don't know, Christine actually just showed up right in the nick of time, right as we were talking about introducing the folks. So this was unplanned. Thomas and I thought it was going to be a really bad show because we weren't going to have somebody to carry us the whole way. So
Guys, making my head bigger.
So listen, let me ask you all a question. Who accounts for the funds in your household? Who does the books in your house, Christine?
Technically, I do. And that sounds really weird. So my husband and I, we have like a joint account and we have split is what we essentially do. So bills come out of one. I essentially account for them, but that's because I love my Excel spreadsheets and my budget. So I have an ongoing budget.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, you got to have your own money and then you have your joint money, but he knows everything that's happening in the joint account though, right?
Yes, we both have logins to our online banking. We have access to the joint account. Either one of us can go in. So at any point, I mean, we both can access it. We have our own username, password. We can see the kids' accounts that we're on. I mean, we can access it all from one dashboard.
Transparency, eh?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Thomas? Who runs the books for you?
So we're similar here. I've got the business books that I handle for my business, but it's all kind of linked together at Chase. So my wife handles the house. She manages all that. She's got an Excel spreadsheet as well, and she keeps up with all the budget and such. But we also have the joint login where so we have the transparency factor as well there.
All right. So I'm curious, for all of our friends and family joining us, how do you manage your books in your household? Is there an air of transparency? because a lot of us are auditors and fraud investigators and compliance professionals. And so we understand segregation of duties, we understand transparency, and it's real important. So I'm just curious now, I'm just really curious. It's really, really curious.
Chat room's kind of quiet today.
It is. Now we've got a few people. We've got a few people that are on and watching. And what's happening though is, so as I'm monitoring the show, you can see the numbers go up. So people keep joining and joining. And so when they join late, they miss the best part of the show, in my opinion, because you got to watch it from beginning to end. And you never know when there actually might be a giveaway, because most weeks we have giveaways, as long as I can set the giveaway tool up appropriately.
And you don't win it yourself?
Yeah, did you guys see the week I actually won the prize? Like how does that?
That was great.
So okay. So can we not all agree that accountants are extremely important for businesses?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very important. There's a high level of trust that we place in them, and we hope that they get the money right. That's kind of important, right?
Well, everybody knows if the accountant messes up. They don't know right now, but they know later on whenever you run out of cash, the IRS calls, that kind of thing. So yeah, they're the ones that you find out later on if they really had no clue what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think lately we've had a lot of instances where when fraud has happened, accountants have been in the news because either they've been complicit or they didn't blow the whistle.
I had experience with that in one of my jobs.
Ooh, tell us about it, if you can.
Do you want to it's almost exactly kind of what happened here.
Oh, well, never mind. Don't spill the beans.
So I don't want to spoil. I'm not spoiling anything.
Oh boy, now Carol is saying she didn't get any notices for the show today, not on LinkedIn or YouTube, and she had to go look for us. But you know what? We're so glad that you looked for us every Friday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can do all the other time zone adjustments because my brain is just not that good. And also, Carol is reading the screen. So for those of you who are listening and not reading the screen, if you would like to win a prize today, enter the hashtag that audit guy into the chat. I'm not going to tell you what the prize is yet. I'm going to keep it in suspense. You know what else I'm going to do?
Because he doesn't know what it is yet.
I'm still trying to account for it.
Oh, ba-doom.
No pun intended.
All right. So, in today's story, I'm not going to let it linger. We're just going to go right into it. In a series of events that unfolded for over a decade, a former accountant in a manufacturing company found herself at the center of an elaborate embezzlement scheme. The 40-year-old resident of Kent County was recently sentenced to 3 years in prison by the U.S. District Court for wire fraud, and I won't tell you the other crime because that's going to be a surprise at the end. But it all started innocently enough. She was working as an accounting manager for a workwear and safety gear manufacturer. Little did her colleagues know that she had darker intentions. You see, in 2013, she opened up an account with the payment processor Square. Everybody knows what Square is, right? They're a payment processor, and you can actually take payments via credit card with this thing you plug into your phone. Here's what she did, though. She cleverly disguised the company's name under that of a commercial shipping company. And from 2014 to 2019, she meticulously orchestrated a plan to siphon off funds from her company And then she transferred over $1.6 million from the company to her Square account. Then she redirected those to her personal account, all under the guise of legitimate payments. Now, before we go to the audience and to our guest host, let's talk about what she did to cover up her tracks. To cover up her tracks, she manipulated the accounting system. She made false entries to make transactions appear valid. However, within Square's compliance department, or their compliance watchdog, they caught wind of these false transactions somewhere around 2015. So it took them about 2 years. But what she did was she concocted a story claiming that the account was used for a consulting and cleaning business. And to support her false statements, she provided Square with some fraudulent invoices. So what do you guys think about that?
Sorry, child just got home. I muted because I knew my dog was gonna bark again. I guess I'm not familiar with Square. Thomas, you're the IT guru. So I'm always used to Square just being that little trinket that you connect to your phone, and like you see it at merchants, at street vendors and stuff like that. So it's almost making me wonder how she was doing those transfers, unless is Square like no different than like PayPal or Venmo? Or did she like use Square to send out like an invoice to the company and then she kind of paid it through that way?
All of the above. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the type where you can have like a, what is it called? Farmer's market, something like that. You can have a booth. You know, you can, that way you don't have to have cash. You don't have to worry about, Venmo or something like that. They can pull out their physical card and tap it on the Square. You can send invoices and all that. Basically, any way that they can get you to do a transaction through them so they can make money off of each transaction, they're going to make it as easy as they can, just like any other payment processor, really. So one thing that stood out to me, and I try really hard not to judge other businesses. Every business has a right to run it the way they want to run it. But if she's been working for this company for 10 years, and according to this one, at least in 2019, her salary was $38,000, or her income was $38,000 for an accounting manager, something doesn't line up there to me. So she either was underpaid, or she was underperforming, and she was getting paid based on her performance, which should have had some kind of red flags in there as far as why was she underperforming. So it feels like there's something going on there within the company that they need to be aware of.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that was interesting, though, is Square was alerted to the potential fraudulent transactions 2 years after they started, and she provided them with false documentation that satisfied them for another 4 years. Because in 2019, Square finally shut down her account. And when Square shut down her account, she opened up 2 new PayPal accounts, one resembling the name of the victim company and another that was a shipping company. And through those accounts, she managed to funnel over $600,000 to her own bank account.
It makes me wonder, Square, huge company. Hey, this looks odd. You know what? We don't like what we're doing. We're going to shut you down. Did they file a SAR on her? Because I'm trying to look it up. I don't think payment processors like Venmo, PayPal, Square, I don't think they have to follow anti-money laundering regulations. I don't think it's covered in the US yet. I think it is in the EU, but I don't think it is here yet that they are required to. Because I think it would be up to your financial institution, so wherever that money is being deposited to her in Square, to sit here and notice, hey, she's getting all these deposits from Square, and I think it would fall on them to do the reporting. So if you're willing to get rid of that one relationship, would you not do a little bit more? Or, I mean, I guess they're probably sitting here going, we did enough.
Those are some very good questions, very good thoughts.
You know, it had we have the dollar amount. How many? It actually said somewhere, and I don't see it right off the top. No, there it is. There were at least 867 secret transactions that took place, right? So again, going back to Square, not only were that means they were small in size, but if you're
Yep.
making money off of every single transaction, are you really going to be looking that closely about what's going on?
There you go. But here's the thing, though. It was enough to alert Square at least twice within a 10-year period. So it seems like after the first hit, maybe it's okay, this is a suspicious company. But after the second hit and it's the same person, then you should start to think about who that person is. Now, Lori makes an interesting point. She likely rationalized her behavior based on her salary for that position. Now, Lori, there's an additional reason why she was taking the money, and we're not going there just yet, but you need to hold on tight, because when you find out why she was taking the money, you're really just gonna fall out of the seat of your chair, because wow.
This is one of those epic, but wait, there's more moments. So I look forward to that line from you today.
Oh, absolutely. This is definitely one of those epic moments. And so now it didn't stop with the PayPal account. Remember, she opened the PayPal account in 2019. In 2021, she executed a series of transactions, moving an additional $247,000 directly into her personal bank account. And once again, when questioned about it, she falsified entries in the accounting books to maintain the illusion of legitimacy. So now this is a lot of money, but to add insult to injury, she willfully evaded taxes on her ill-gotten gains.
Ding, ding, ding.
All in all, she failed to report more than $2.5 million that she embezzled as her income on her tax returns. For example, in 2019, she claimed income of only $38,000, while she omitted $615,000 that she received in her embezzlement activity. In total, the IRS is saying that she had $590,000 in unpaid taxes.
I was talking to my husband about this last night when you sent me the article, and I just started laughing, Rob. And he's like, are you doing the podcast tomorrow? And I go, yep, I'm going to try. He goes, you're reading the article, aren't you? And I go, it just floors me. He goes, what's that? I'm like, you embezzle money. You don't put it on your taxes. You get caught for tax evasion. And he looks at me, he goes, what? I go, yeah, you have to claim the money you embezzle on your taxes and pay taxes on it. And he goes, well, how would you do that? And I go, I don't know. Ask the criminals. They figured out how to steal the money. They should be able to figure out how to pay taxes on it. So
I'm curious for those that are listening right now or watching the show. How do you think this could have been caught, knowing nothing else about it right now? What are different ways you could have seen that this lady, she made $2.5 million on a $38,000 salary? How would you have caught this, do you think? Or what kind of red flags would you have seen before the wait, there's more?
Ooh, I want to say one, as we prime the pump. Like Kelly always says, do a parking lot audit. And the people with the new cars or, the different lifestyle. Although I don't think that would have helped in this particular case.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I looked up what they think her company is, and they only have about 54 employees. So I would think you get to know people and how they act. I don't know.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, how do you think this could have been caught? Better yet, prevented? Because Well, we'll talk about the prevention here because obviously no one was looking at the records. I mean, that's a lot of money to go missing. And for a company, it's not a large company. So for a company that size, some analytical reviews should have shown money missing. Or even if you just looked at your vendor listing, surely they didn't have that many vendors. You could probably eyeball the vendor listing maybe once or twice a year, and that odd vendor or that new vendor who's taking a lot of money should pop up almost immediately. Every company should take a look at new vendors within the last year and then see
Mhm.
how much money has been going out and what is the nature of that particular business. Now, Lori has a guess. Lori says lifestyle changes. We talked about that.
Mhm.
Controls and reconciliations, absolutely. And segregation of duties.
Background check. Kill me. $50. If you guys own a company, if I'm sure Rob, Thomas, you guys own your own companies. I mean, I know Thomas, you get some people assisting, right? Do you do background checks?
Oh,
Okay.
yes. And yeah, $50. No, it's more like $8 to $12, maybe 20, depending on how deep you want to go. It's not expensive at all to get background checks.
Yeah, I had to do a background check on myself. So
I had to do that too.
it's like, are you sure you want to work with this guy? Okay. So now, as the investigation deepened, it was revealed that her actions were fueled by her spiraling addiction to prescription drugs. According to federal prosecutors, she was spending an astounding $2,000 per day on prescription drugs.
And here we go. I was looking for it earlier. She has 6 prior convictions, including 2 for theft, 2 for drug possession, all connected to that addiction. So
There you
again,
go.
that's where a background check. And I mean, let's be real here. Drug addiction is a real thing. White collar drug addiction has skyrocketed since COVID and all of that. So it's not something to joke about or to make light of. But yeah, if they would have done a simple background check, she either wouldn't have had that job, or at least there would have had controls and protections around it so that she couldn't do this. They really did a disservice to her by not knowing more about her background when they hired her.
Or it's even like, I don't want to say ongoing, but at some point, do companies sit there? I mean, I know there's certain industries that you do certain types of background checks. So like your loan officers, the mortgage industry, you have to make sure that they didn't have any criminal activity in order for that kind of stuff. But at what point, when you've got people that have such controls over your money, certain assets, people in certain positions, do you have an ongoing every 3 year background check? Because if they get in trouble, they're not going to say anything to anybody. They're just going to hope that nobody finds out about it. So, I mean, at what point do you start as an organization implementing that stuff as well?
Yeah.
That can be a tough one too, right?
Mhm.
If they've been working there for 5-10 years, you're happy with them, they're doing a great job, there is no fraud, there is no theft, but they happen to have a conviction of some sort you weren't aware of. Are you going to fire them? And then also you have to worry about the HR and legal side of it as well. So it at that point, it seems like companies a lot of times would rather just put their head in the sand and say, hey, we don't know, we don't want to know.
Yeah. Now, to your point, it becomes very difficult. So let me tell you guys a story of something that happened. It was very interesting. So, I was chief auditor at an organization responsible for the whistleblower hotline too, which, God, that's always fun. And we had a complaint come in, and the complaint was surrounding a bunch of individuals, and the allegation was that they were stealing certain things. I'm trying to be a little nondescript here. When we went in and started talking to people, one of the persons that was not being accused of stealing became a focal point from the standpoint of the other employees. The reason why was because she had a previous criminal record. So this person had not been alleged to have done anything wrong, but because the fellow employees knew that she had a prior criminal history, they tried to make it about her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is how bad it got. They actually tried to say that she was a criminal and that the company did not know that she was a convicted felon. Now, we simply pulled her HR records, and to her credit, on her application, she disclosed that she was a convicted felon. What ended up happening was the other people in the department who had never been caught for anything, they were actually stealing. And again, when they got caught, they tried to deflect to the person who had a criminal history. And she was actually a whistleblower. She told on everyone else and cooperated fully.
That's
So,
hard.
yeah. So it's
That's
hard
rough.
as an organization, yeah, to try and figure out what to do. I think I don't necessarily believe once a criminal, always a criminal. Um, I think people can reform, people can get better. I think it is a red flag. I don't think it should be a shutting of the door though. I think it should be cracking the door and peeping inside to see what's happening. But and that's just, of course, that's just based on my anecdotal experience, but yeah.
Well, I always say whenever I talk to a business, a private business, about implementing internal controls, I you identify, normally it's 2 or 3 people that can do just about everything for the company. And I say, look, think about the politician you absolutely hate the most. Would you want that politician in that role with your current policies and procedures in place, or would you actually implement more? And obviously, every single time they're like, "Oh no, we'd have this control and this control and this control." It's like, well, you don't know this person, you don't know their real
Mhm.
situation and stuff, and you also don't want to tempt them into doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And so I see it as the same thing. Whether you do a background check or not, you need to be aware of their background so that way you can help protect them from the temptation of more. But you should be doing that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're right. Even if those were on there and they decided to give her a chance, I did find her LinkedIn page. She had a lot of responsibilities for that company, overseeing the accounting functions for accounts payable, receivable. She managed employee benefits, recruiting, staffing, payroll, all of HR. She prepared monthly closing entries, reconciliations for the GAAP financial statements, and she assisted the financial controller with annual budgeting process and the financial portion of the strategic plan. So not only did she take this money, work the system, she also had her hands in the budgeting portion of it.
You know what's interesting? I don't want to victim blame here,
Mhm.
but it makes you think that the company kind of took advantage of her with the low pay and the multiple duties and responsibilities without knowing her background, and then she took advantage of the organization by stealing more than $2.5 million from them. Because reading off that list of duties and responsibilities, how could she still be making $38,000?
$1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could she be making $38,000 with all of those duties and responsibilities? Now, here's where it gets really interesting, my friends. Here's where it gets really interesting. The judge actually said, and I quote, "You've known your entire life that you had an addiction issue, but you never took any steps on your own to deal with it." So think about this. Here's someone with 6 prior convictions, 2 for theft and 2 for drug possession. I wonder what the other 2 were, right? She stole
Mhm.
$2.5 million from this organization. Now, on the other hand, the organization had her doing what seems like the job of about 6 people, but only paying her $38,000 per year. Um, makes you wonder who's the bad guy here, or do we have bad guys?
I mean, I would hope after, and I don't know how Washington is, let alone even how Wisconsin is, but I would think after, I don't know, can you be ordered to go to rehab after so many drug possession convictions? Well, I guess that not necessarily, that just means you had it. I think I mean, she had friends and family and supporters submitting over 20 pages of letters to the judge, explaining how she's an extraordinary woman who have struggled with addiction. I hope I wish she had a better support system. Like, I think if you were dealing with something that long, for him to say you never took any steps to deal with it, I guess I'm just kind of surprised by that. If you've had a drug addiction for a long time and family and friends knew about it.
Well, let's just be real here. The friends and family that submitted over 20 pages of letters to the judge explaining how she was an extraordinary woman, those are enablers. They weren't helping her at all.
Right.
If you've ever known anyone with drug addiction, you can either help them by allowing them to hit rock bottom, because that's the only way they'll clean up, or you can enable them. And that was just another form of enablement. But with 3 years behind bars, she'll most likely get clean in there.
Maybe.
The first time I read about the personal letters, the first person that came to my mind was Elizabeth Holmes. And I mean, she had 130 letters, attesting to how great of a person she is and all of this stuff. So it's, something tells me that's a very common occurrence in the courtroom as well, getting a bunch of letters in, and you look at it and the judge kind of tosses them to the side, I'm sure, quite often.
Yeah. Now get this though. I just lost it. There it is. She was ordered to pay $2.5 million in restitution to the company and $590,000 to the U.S. Treasury, the IRS, for the unpaid taxes on the money that she stole. And after she's released from prison, she'll be placed on 3 years of supervised release.
That's a lot of, I mean, how do you ever come back from that amount of restitution? I mean, I always wonder that, how anybody can come back from that when you have that restitution, but I mean, you took the money, you owe it back.
Yeah. I think what's difficult in this particular situation, oftentimes when people steal that much money, they purchase property. The government can then seize that property, sell it, and get some of the cash back. But it sounds like she smoked or snorted, or whatever her drug of choice was, she inhaled most of that money. And so, yeah, how is she ever going to pay back that amount? And at the end of the day, too, how do you actually get help for her? Because it to a certain extent, it does make you feel bad. So how does she get help for that? Now, this is an interesting point. Nada says she was doing the job of 6 people. She ended up over medicating, not to excuse the drug addiction.
Right. And it's not necessarily, I know, I mean, 38,000, we talked about it. $38,000 a year is what your income was. We don't know how her home situation was, how many people she was supporting in her home. Is this a good job? She knows how to do it. Burnout. I mean, you're not going to sit there and ask to, get less. I mean, it's hard for people sometimes to step up and say, hey, I need either you need to pay me more money or you need to get me somebody else out here.
Well, and if she knows she had 6 prior convictions, she's probably thinking, I can't get another job somewhere else because they're going to actually, look at that. It reminds me of a client I had years ago, small town, East Texas. It was a single mom working about 80 hours a week. And she was, anytime something came up, she's like, yes, I can do it. And it was because she was worried somebody else would come in and replace her. And now she's stuck in the middle of nowhere, Texas, trying to find a job. So she would take stuff on so that she didn't lose her job. So you're right. It was probably a little bit of that as well. I can't imagine, like, what kind of job can she get after this? right? That's going to be a challenge as well. Not just paying back the restitution and trying to overcome this addiction, but trying to find a job that pays well enough just to live. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the point that I was making earlier about it is possible that the company was taking some advantage of her as well. And I know we hate to say it like that because the company obviously is a victim in this, but
Right.
did they do a background check and see that she had prior convictions and then lowball her on the salary because of that? Again, just a question and a speculation.
Yeah. Because normally when we talk about these things, I don't feel bad for the person. I'm like, they got to get jail time. So I'm not saying she shouldn't get jail time. Not saying that she shouldn't pay restitution. I honestly feel bad. And I think it's because of the drug addiction. Like it's something that needs to be addressed, but it's no different. I mean, I guess some of those others where they spent all their money on like Louis Vuitton teddy bears and purses, like, is that a shopping addiction? I mean, it's still not right that she did it. I just wish she would have had the help before it would have gotten this bad.
Right. And I actually felt bad for her too. Now, Nada makes another interesting point, and that's the problem with our legal system. We focus on penalty versus support. Because some people need to be penalized, but then some people need support. And here's the interesting thing. Oftentimes, criminals never look like what you think they're going to look like, right? Because there she is. There she is. And that's from her LinkedIn profile. That doesn't look like a criminal to me. Does it look like a criminal to you?
It looks like every time I walk through any client's office, you have one or two ladies that look almost identical to that. And I mean, she looked like she was fairly well put together. It looked like she dressed, respectfully and such at the office. She was probably one of those that showed up either on time or close to it every day. Everybody probably liked her quite a bit. I mean, you can make a lot of assumptions just off a picture, but I mean, that's the first things that I imagined as as you put it up there.
Yeah.
But I agree with you what you said earlier about the people that wrote the 20 different letters. Are they enablers? Because they clearly weren't, or it doesn't appear that they were helping her and getting her the support she really needed. Not until she was in this financial or legal issue, for this 7th or 8th time.
They definitely were enablers. Now, my friends, I'm going to remind you all one last time, if you want to be included in the giveaway, drop hashtag that audit guy into the chat and you will be automatically entered into a drawing that we will have in just a few moments. But let's go back to our comments because Carol makes a good point. People get desperate when they have a drug addiction and they will go to the ends of the earth to continue their drug access. They can do their job quite well, and it is hard to see this happen. Yeah.
And I had that experience when I was talking about the experience that I had in a previous job. It was $1.7 million missing from a vault that the accountant stole. She didn't have a drug addiction. They believe she had a gambling addiction, is what that was. But I mean, the controls in itself should have been tighter. I think it took 3 years from the incident before she even had to serve prison time, which she only had to serve 3 years. And it's like, man, your prison time could have been done.
Yeah.
Her restitution, though, that she had to pay back. So they were only able to find so much of that money. So her restitution that she has to pay back to the insurance company, because they were federally insured, she is not allowed to get a loan from a federally insured financial institution until that's paid back.
Ooh.
So you're talking any bank with FDIC, any credit union that's insured by NCUA, you're not getting a loan until you pay back. I think she had to pay back $800,000.
Oh, wow. That's hard. Yeah. That is
That's
wow.
yeah. You're not getting a mortgage. You're
Mhm.
never going to get a mortgage.
Yep.
I mean, are you going to pay 24% to get a car loan interest rate from somebody that doesn't do it from a bank or a credit union?
Right. Wow.
And that's life altering. And they take as much of your assets as they can, anything they can prove that you bought with the stolen money.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And
listen,
part of that is also kind of that deterrent, right? You want to a little bit of a set of example so that others will see and be like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this, and you don't want to trump up charges to penalize someone worse than they should be. But hopefully others looked at that and were like, you know what? It's not worth all of that.
And I think it was Clarence that made a good point last week as well. It's like you want to set that example, right? Monetary losses, especially when you're getting into the millions, like you want them to serve time, right? But Clarence did make a good point last week but they're not violent offenders. Like that's another thing is now you have to worry about, okay, so where do we put them if they're not violent offenders? Because you don't want to overcrowd. And I think that really did hit a point with me. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I would love it if somebody sat there and stole $20 million for somebody. Well, you know what? You're serving a year for every million that you stole. But is that productive? You're not getting your money back.
Yeah.
Are you just putting them in an environment where they can learn to do worse stuff or do it better?
Yeah, people definitely come out of prison worse than how they came in oftentimes. You know what, though? Since we're talking about accountants and fraud, for anyone who is in the U.S. in the state of Michigan, soon you'll see an article from me in the Michigan CPA Society magazine. I'm working on it right now, and it's about fraud and accountants. So I'm just putting that plug out there really quickly and briefly. Today's episode was an interesting one, and we had some people chiming in from YouTube, which makes me happy. If you hadn't subscribed to that Audit Guys YouTube channel, go over there and subscribe, my friends. Now, are we ready for the giveaway?
Do it.
I think we're ready for the giveaway. So let's see who will be the winner of the Amazon best-selling book, Ask Better Questions, Get Better Answers, Perform Better Audits. Ooh, Christine, who was listening on YouTube. How's about that? Isn't that funny? Someone from the YouTube audience won a prize today. You see? That means that we need to start listening more on YouTube. I've got a fruit fly in here. Okay. So Christine, here's what I want you to do. I want you to contact me on LinkedIn. That way I can verify that you are who you say you are. So contact me on LinkedIn with a mailing address and we'll get the book out to you. And Clarence, your shirt is coming soon. And then Richard's book should be there this week. So we give away different kinds of prizes here. So it's always good to tune in live. Now, starting in a few months, at least by the beginning of the year, you'll be able to get CPEs for listening live. Not for the recorded, but for listening live. Because we just like to have you all here with us. It's so much fun.
Definitely better than just talking to ourselves.
Isn't it? It's a whole lot better than talking to ourselves. Christine says, yay.
Awesome.
And I'm saying, yay for my YouTube numbers, man. We're trying. We need to get monetized over there on YouTube, and there's a long way to go. I think you need 1,000 subscribers, and I think I have maybe 200, maybe 100. I don't know. I forgot the number now.
So are you saying that my 15-year-old son, who has a gymnastics channel on YouTube, has more subscribers than you do?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yes.
I'm going to tell him that. He's going to love that.
Who wants to talk about auditing on YouTube, you know?
I don't know. I ended up telling my mom, I'm like, hey, I'm doing this like podcast thing. She's like, really? What's the name of it? So you might have a new follower for my mom. So if my mom listens to this one, hi mom. Tell Dad I said hi.
Mom, subscribe. Wait a minute. You know what? I think I need to help everybody out too. I need to drop the link into the chat. So let me just get it here so that
Sure, I'm following you.
There it is. I just dropped it into the LinkedIn chat. There is the YouTube channel. It is at that audit guy and then the number 1. You know, here's a funny story about that. So let me tell you guys a funny story. So the number 1 came about because I actually do have that audit guy, but it's with another email account. And YouTube makes it a little difficult for you to just kind of transfer it from one to another. So what I'd have to do is actually release it and then get it and hope that no one else gets it between the time I release it and the time. Anyway, that all the behind the scenes stuff is very interesting. The stuff that you learn how to do, which is why you should be a guest co-host with us and get your 1 hour of CPE credit, because you learn a lot, you improve your communication skills, and you get to collaborate and coordinate with fellow auditors, because Clarence was a guest host last week and he had a really good time. So anyway, anything else we need to talk about this week?
Reach out to Rob if you want to co-host. It's fun. I promise.
And I didn't pay her to say that either.
And you get the story. You get the story early. I like it. It's a good exercise on researching on people and kind of getting out of your comfort zone of what you probably normally do day to day. But also applying whatever industry you're in and your knowledge and how it can actually kind of go over into things that people are doing that are wrong.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what, Rob? I've got one for you. I've got a bet that I want to do right here, live. You ready for it?
Uh-oh.
All right. I will bet all of Christine's salary of next year that a Texas team makes the World Series.
Ah.
Are you
Okay.
talking about my salary?
Yeah. She didn't get that at first. It was like, wait a minute.
Well, at first I'm like, I thought that's what you meant. Then I'm like, maybe Thomas's wife's name is Christine, that he's putting up his wife's salary.
She's a stay-at-home mom. She just takes all of mine.
Christine, yes, he said your salary.
But what she didn't catch, though, is that we've got 2 Texas teams playing against each other for the World Series. So no matter what, right, in the World Series this year, hopefully it's going to be the good guys, the Houston team. But we'll
I'm in a whole different hemisphere than you, Thomas. I am all the way up in Wisconsin. It is getting cold here. I'm pretty sure that our children are going to have to wear snow pants for trick or treating.
It's 90 right now in Houston.
It actually got up to 49, and it's 2:00 in the afternoon through almost 3, and it's raining. It's cold.
So I take it that's a big no on your salary, Christine.
No, I got bills to pay.
By the way, there's that Audit Guys YouTube channel. Check that out. There it is right there. And here's the episode that we're actually doing right now.
Oh, look at that.
Right
yeah, you
there.
got 3 watching live.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, I guess one of them is me though, right?
It must be.
And only 121 subscribers, but that's okay. That's okay. By the way, if you want to listen to past episodes on YouTube, you can go to podcast right here. And here is Audit Bites. And here is the Friday Fraudster. Here they all are right here listed on the YouTube channel. Pretty soon, we're going to have some short form videos coming of content that is audit related. So stay tuned for that as well. Ooh, 104 videos. Really?
Well, you're already on episode 119.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're behind uploading them or something.
Well, you know what ended up happening was in the beginning, I wasn't streaming to YouTube, so I did have to upload some, and yeah, I skipped some. Now it streams live to YouTube, and those comments come on here as well as the LinkedIn ones. Oh, Christine says go Astros. All righty
I'm
then.
glad you won the book. That's awesome.
Oh boy. All right, you guys. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And don't forget, every Friday right here, same time, same channel, unless you want to go over to my YouTube channel and subscribe, click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Sometimes you have to laugh at yourself, right? Same time, same channel, different stories. See you guys next week.